I saw the security footage 3 days after I hired her, and my stomach dropped like I'd just crested the highest point on a roller coaster that was about to plummet straight into hell. The timestamp read 2:47 a.m. There she was on the screen, Ashley, the girl I'd picked up at the Shell station off Route 9, the one who'd been sleeping in her car for 6 weeks, standing in my home office with my safe door hanging open. Her hands were shaking as she pulled something out, and even through the grainy black and white footage, I could see the guilt written all over her face. My chest tightened. I rewound it, played it again. Same thing. Different angle from the kitchen camera showed her stuffing something into her jacket pocket, something small and gold-colored. I had to sit down. But I'm getting ahead of myself. 3 weeks earlier, everything was perfect. Picture perfect, the kind of life I'd spent 15 years building from nothing, and I wasn't about to let it crumble because of one bad decision. So let me back up. My name is Michael. I'm 42, self-made, semi-retired, sold my software company to a private equity firm 6 years ago for just over $8 million. Not billionaire money, but enough that I'd never have to work another day if I didn't want to. Enough to buy a 6,500 square foot house in the Ridgemont Hills suburb outside Austin, the kind of place with a 3-car garage, a pool, and a guest house out back. Enough to take my wife Jennifer on 2 vacations a year and not think twice about dropping 40 grand on a Rolex. Jennifer and I had been married for 18 years. We met at UT Austin. She was studying interior design. I was grinding through a computer science degree at night while working full-time. She was beautiful, ambitious, and she believed in me before I believed in myself. We'd built a good life, a really good life. We had 2 kids, Sarah, 16, and Marcus, 13. Both were decent kids, got decent grades, played sports. The kind of stable, boring in the best way family that made sense on a Christmas card. That particular Tuesday morning, I was driving back from my weekly coffee meeting with my financial advisor. Yes, I'm that guy now. The kind who has a financial advisor and actually shows up. When I pulled into the Shell station on Route 9 to grab a coffee, it was around 7 a.m., still dark, that weird pre-dawn Texas heat that hits you like a wall. I saw her leaning against the side of a beat-up 2008 Honda Civic, a silver thing with rust creeping up the wheel wells and tape over one of the back windows. She was maybe 25, wearing a thin hoodie despite the heat, and she had the hollow look of someone who hadn't slept properly in weeks. Blonde hair pulled back, no makeup, dark circles under blue eyes. She was smoking a cigarette and staring at nothing. I almost didn't stop, almost just grabbed my coffee and drove away. But something about her broke through whatever protective shell I'd built up over the years. "You okay?" I asked, pulling up beside her. She looked at me like she was trying to decide if I was a threat. Fair assessment, honestly. Middle-aged guy in a Mercedes asking about a young woman alone at a gas station at dawn. "I'm fine," she said, but her voice cracked on the word. "You don't look fine." She took another drag on her cigarette. "Is that your business?" "No," I said, "but I'm asking anyway." She laughed, this broken, bitter sound that made my chest hurt. "I haven't eaten in 2 days. I've been sleeping in my car for 6 weeks. My dad kicked me out because I wouldn't go back to my abusive ex. So no, I'm not fine. But I will be. I just need—" She stopped herself. "Sorry, you don't need my life story." I should have gotten my coffee and left, should have called her a local shelter number and felt good about myself for the rest of the week. Instead, I found myself saying, "What's your name?" "Ashley." "I'm Michael. Do you have a job?" She shook her head. "Got fired from my waitressing gig 2 months ago. They said I was unreliable because I was missing shifts. I was missing shifts because I was dealing with my ex showing up at the restaurant, threatening me." She said it all matter of fact, like she'd explained it 100 times and didn't expect anyone to actually listen. I remember thinking about Sarah, 16 years old, sleeping in a safe bed in my house, with a college fund already sitting in a 529 plan. The gap between her life and this girl's life was just luck. Circumstance, the genetic lottery. "I'm hiring someone," I heard myself say. "Personal assistant, light housekeeping, errands, organizing. $500 a week, cash, plus room and board. You interested? She stared at me for a long moment. Why would you do that? Because you look like you need someone to do it. That was stupid. That was the kind of decision that gets you on the evening news, not the good kind of evening news either. Jennifer told me later that it was reckless. Her lawyer friend Karen said I was lucky I didn't get murdered. But at the time, it felt like the right thing to do. Ashley took me up on the offer that same day. She had everything she owned in that Civic: 2 suitcases, a backpack, a box of books. I drove her to Target and let her pick out some clothes. She cried in the fitting room, which I pretended not to notice. I set her up in the guest house out back, gave her a debit card connected to a household account, and showed her what needed to be done. And for 3 weeks, it was genuinely great. She was grateful, the kind of grateful that made you feel like you'd actually done something meaningful with your money. She cleaned the house impeccably. She organized Jennifer's closet the way Jennifer had always complained she wanted it organized. She picked up the kids from school on days when Jennifer had meetings. She was quiet, respectful, kept to herself mostly. But when she did interact with us, she was funny and smart. Marcus started showing her his college essays. Sarah asked her for relationship advice. Jennifer even said, "You know, I think you actually helped her, Michael. I can see the difference in her." And I felt like a good person, like maybe I'd finally figured out how to use my money for something that mattered. Then came the footage. Then came the question that changed everything. What else had she taken, and why? I sat in my home office for 45 minutes, that security footage on repeat. Rewind, play, rewind, play. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. The rational part of my brain, the part that had built a software company from a dorm room, was screaming at me to call the police, call a lawyer, call someone. But I couldn't move. What had she taken? I walked to the safe with the footage still playing in my head. The door hung open, exactly like on the camera. I kept a lot of things in there. Cash. I usually had between $8,000 and $15,000 in hundreds, just in case. Jewelry that had belonged to my mother. Documents. And the Rolex I'd bought last year? The one I'd shown Jennifer and she'd rolled her eyes at because that's such a midlife crisis purchase, Michael. The Rolex was gone. My stomach twisted into a knot so tight I thought I might throw up. I checked the cash drawer. Still full. The jewelry box. Still there. Just the watch. One specific, valuable, identifiable item. I went back to my desk and pulled up the security footage on my computer, expanding the timestamp. 2:47 a.m., 3 weeks to the day after I'd picked her up at that gas station. I'd installed the cameras last year after a package theft in the neighborhood. Never thought I'd be using them to catch someone I'd let into my home. My phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. Staying late at the design consultation. Dinner's in the fridge. Love you. Love you. That word landed heavy. I had to tell her. I had to tell her tonight. But first, I needed to know what the hell was going on. I pulled up my banking app, checking the debit card I'd given Ashley. $500 a week in cash, like I'd promised. But I'd also let her use the card for household expenses, groceries, gas, whatever she needed. The transactions were all normal. Target, H-E-B, a gas station on the other side of town. Nothing suspicious. I called downstairs. "Ashley, can you come up here for a minute?" No answer. I went to the kitchen. The house felt wrong suddenly, like I was seeing it for the first time. The way she'd organized Jennifer's closet. Had she been in there for other reasons? The way she'd started picking up the kids from school. What else had she been doing? I climbed the back stairs to the guest house. It was a separate structure, about 800 square feet, nice enough for what was basically a rental unit. I knocked. "Ashley?" Nothing. I opened the door. The place was immaculate, like always. Her bed made with military precision. The small kitchen, spotless. But when I checked the closet, her clothes were still there. Both suitcases. The backpack with the books. She hadn't run. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Is this Michael Chen?" A woman's voice, official and clipped. "Yes, who is this?" "This is Officer Patricia Hayes with the Austin Police Department. We're at St. David's Medical Center. We have an Ashley Michaels here. She was brought in about an hour ago. You're listed as her emergency contact on her hospital intake form." The world tilted sideways. What happened? Is she okay? She's conscious, but she's in serious condition. Overdose. Looks like a combination of prescription painkillers and alcohol. She was found in the parking lot of a Walmart in South Austin. Can you come to the hospital? I hung up and just stood there in the empty guest house, the Rolex still missing, the safe still hanging open, and now this. Ashley, the girl I tried to help, was in a hospital bed 40 minutes away. The rational part of my brain was saying this was a setup, this was manipulation. This was her way of getting sympathy before I could press charges. But the human part, the part that had seen her crying in the Target fitting room, the part that had listened to her laugh at dinner with my kids, that part was already reaching for my keys. I drove like a madman to St. David's, my mind spinning with questions I couldn't answer. When I got to her room, Officer Hayes was waiting outside. "She's asking for you," the officer said. "Before she goes into a deeper sleep, she wanted to talk to you. Fair warning, she's not in great shape emotionally or physically." I walked in and my chest cracked open. Ashley was hooked up to 3 different monitors, an IV in her arm, her skin waxy and pale. Her eyes were hollow in a way they hadn't been at the gas station, like whatever light had been trying to survive in her had finally given up. "Michael," she whispered. "What happened?" I asked, pulling a chair close to her bed. She closed her eyes. "I took the watch." "I know, the security cameras." "There's more," she said. Her voice was barely audible. "I was going to pawn it. I owed someone money, a bad person, someone from my past. He found me, Michael. He found me because I was stupid enough to post something on Facebook. He said if I didn't pay him $5,000 by this week, he'd come after me. He'd come after you too. He said since you'd been helping me, you were fair game." I felt the blood drain from my face. "I panicked," she continued, tears sliding down her temples. "I took the watch to get the money, but then I couldn't do it. I couldn't go through with pawning it. So I sat in my car in a Walmart parking lot and I just wanted it to stop. All of it. The fear, the running, the feeling like I'd ruined every good thing I touched. Ashley." "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. You were kind to me when you didn't have to be, and I repaid that by bringing danger into your home, by stealing from you. I deserve—" Her voice broke. "I deserve whatever happens to me now." I sat there, watching her cry, watching the monitors beep steadily, and something shifted inside me. The anger I'd felt in that office, the betrayal, it didn't disappear, but it got complicated. Because I realized I'd picked her up at that gas station thinking I was the savior of the story. I'd hired her thinking I was being noble. But I'd never actually asked what she was running from. I'd never asked if bringing her into my house might put my family at risk. I'd done something reckless and self-serving, and now we were all paying the price. "Who is this person?" I asked quietly. "The one who's threatening you?" Ashley opened her eyes and looked at me. "His name is Derek Walsh. And Michael, he's not going to stop. He's not going to care that I'm in the hospital. He's going to keep coming until he gets his money, or until—" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from an unknown number. "I know where you live. I know where your kids go to school. You've got 72 hours to help my girl get me $5,000, or we're going to have a real problem." My hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't shock. This time it was fear. I stared at that text message for what felt like an eternity, though it was probably only 30 seconds. My fingers had gone numb. Derek Walsh. The name alone felt like a threat carved into my phone screen. I called my lawyer, Karen, Jennifer's friend who'd handled our prenup years ago, at 10:30 at night. She answered on the third ring, voice thick with sleep. "Michael? What's wrong?" I told her everything, the watch, Ashley, the text message, the threat against my kids. By the time I finished, she was awake and sharp. "Don't respond to that message," she said immediately. "Don't engage. This is extortion, and it's documented. You need to file a police report tonight, and you need to tell your wife before someone else does. Then we figure out if this Derek Walsh is a real threat or just noise. Ashley's in the hospital. Overdose. She confessed about the watch because… Michael, listen to me. I understand you feel guilty, but you cannot let guilt cloud your judgment right now. You have a family to protect. Report it. Tonight. I hung up and sat in my office in the dark, that one text message glowing on my screen like a warning beacon. Then I went upstairs and woke Jennifer. She was angry. Not the cold, silent kind of angry, the explosive kind. The kind where your wife sits up in bed and says, "You did what?" loud enough that I had to actually ask her to keep her voice down so the kids wouldn't hear. "You picked up a stranger at a gas station and brought her into our house without asking me? You gave her access to our home, our children, and apparently our valuables?" I was trying to help her. "You were trying to feel like a good person," Jennifer cut me off. "And now we have a criminal threatening our children. Do you understand what you've done?" I understood. God, I understood perfectly. The shame hit me like a physical blow. Karen met us at the police station at midnight. Officer Patricia Hayes, the same one from the hospital, was waiting with a detective named Rodriguez, a woman in her 50s with eyes that had seen too much. I gave them everything. The text message, Ashley's story about Derek, the address where she'd been living before the Walmart parking lot, the fact that Derek had found her through Facebook. Detective Rodriguez didn't look surprised. "Derek Walsh is known to us," she said, pulling up a file on her computer. "Small-time criminal, loan sharking mostly, preys on vulnerable people, addicts, people in crisis. He loans them money at brutal rates, and when they can't pay, he escalates. He's been arrested 3 times, convicted twice. He's currently out on bail for assault." "So he's dangerous," I said. "He's dangerous to people he has leverage over," Rodriguez said. "Ashley Michaels borrowed $5,000 from him 8 months ago. She's paid him back $3,000. When her ex started threatening her, she went dark, stopped making payments, stopped responding to his calls. Derek found her through her father's Facebook page." "What do we do?" Jennifer asked. Her hand was gripping mine so hard my fingers were losing circulation. "We find Derek," Rodriguez said. "We get a statement from Ashley about the threat and the extortion attempt, and we build a case. In the meantime, we can put a patrol car on your street for the next week. Make sure he knows the police are watching." "That's it?" I felt my voice rising. "He's threatening my children." "If he shows up at your house or your children's school, we arrest him," Rodriguez said flatly. "Right now, he sent 1 text. That's enough for extortion charges, but it's not enough for us to arrest him preemptively. Welcome to the criminal justice system, Mr. Chen." Karen walked us out. "I'm going to file a restraining order tomorrow," she said. "That gives us a paper trail and legal protection. And Michael, you need to talk to your homeowner's insurance about this. You might have liability issues." I felt like I was drowning. We drove to the hospital in separate cars. Jennifer wouldn't ride with me. At Ashley's room, the officer outside let us in. Ashley was awake, eyes red-rimmed, staring at the ceiling. "Derek found you," I said. It wasn't a question. Ashley closed her eyes. "He came by the guest house 3 days ago. I wasn't there. He left a note under the door. Just said he knew where I was and that the clock was ticking." I panicked. I took the watch to try to get the money before he escalated. "Before he what? Ashley, what does Derek do when people don't pay?" She didn't answer for a long moment. Then, "He hurt my friend Danielle, broke her arm, left her in a parking lot. That was 2 years ago, when she owed him money and tried to disappear." Jennifer made a sound like she was going to be sick. She walked out of the room. I sat down on the edge of Ashley's bed. "You need to testify," I said, "against Derek. The police need your statement." "He'll kill me," Ashley whispered. "He might," I said, and I meant it. "But if you don't, he's going to keep doing this to other girls, and he might hurt my family, so you need to decide what kind of person you want to be." It was a harsh thing to say to a girl in a hospital bed after an overdose attempt, but it was also true. Detective Rodriguez came the next morning with a crime scene photographer. Ashley gave her statement, all of it. The loan, the threats, the visit to the guest house, the text Derek had sent me. By that afternoon, we had a restraining order, and Rodriguez had a warrant. They found Derek Walsh at a strip mall apartment complex in South Austin, where he was running his operation out of a 2-bedroom unit. They found cash, phones, evidence of at least a dozen other victims. They found text messages threatening Ashley, threatening other people. They found my Rolex in a drawer, never pawned. Karen called me that evening. He's been charged with extortion, loan sharking, and 3 counts of assault, she said. He's being held without bail. The prosecutor is confident about conviction. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt hollow. Ashley was discharged from the hospital on a Friday. The state arranged for her to go into a women's shelter that specialized in victims of crime and abuse. I visited her the day before she left. "I'm sorry," she said. We were sitting in a small visiting room, plastic chairs, institutional beige walls. "I know that doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry for stealing from you, for lying, for bringing Derek into your life." "I'm sorry for being stupid," I said, "for thinking I could save you without actually asking what you needed, for putting my family at risk because I wanted to feel like a good person." She looked at me for a long moment. "You did save me, not the way you thought, but you gave me a reason to want to live when I was sitting in that parking lot. You believed I was worth helping. That matters." I didn't know how to respond to that. "The prosecutor says there's a victim compensation fund," Ashley continued, "for people who've been hurt by criminals. It won't cover everything, but it might help me get into community college. Start over, actually." "I'll help with that," I said. "Not in some savior way, just practically. If you need tuition help or housing or—" "I know," she said, "and I trust you. I think you learned something too." 6 months later, Derek Walsh was convicted. 15 years. The Victim Compensation Fund helped Ashley with her first semester at Austin Community College. She's studying nursing now, works part-time at a coffee shop, lives in a small apartment with 2 roommates. She sends Jennifer a Christmas card every year. Just a note, nothing elaborate. "Thank you for trusting me. Love, Ashley." My marriage survived, but barely. Jennifer insisted on couples therapy, and we did 6 months of it. We're better now, but we're not the same. There's a wariness there that wasn't there before. She trusts me less, and honestly, I deserve that. The security cameras are still running, but I don't check them obsessively anymore. What I learned, what I'm still learning, is that charity without wisdom is just narcissism wearing a halo. You can have all the money in the world, and it won't buy you the right to make decisions for other people. Ashley needed help, yes, but she also needed agency. She needed to be asked, not saved. I'm not a good person for picking her up at that gas station. I'm just a person who made a reckless decision and got lucky that it didn't destroy everything I had. The difference is knowing the difference.